Thank you for joining me this morning. Welcome. It's almost the end of the school year and prom season is beginning. Not only does that bring excitement, but it can bring fear to parents. Proms are no longer the innocent dances that they used to be. This morning, my guest is Roxanne Derhodge, the author of A Therapist's Insider Guide on Relationships. And she is with me this morning to specifically talk about what we need to talk about with our children before prom night takes place. Good morning, Roxanne, and welcome.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. You know, prom night is one event that girls look so forward to and take so much time preparing for, but it can be a nightmare if you have no idea what could happen. So I want to start this conversation by talking about what parents should know and what they should do.
Well, I think what parents need to know is about some of the pressures that I think young women feel, but also maybe young men on what this prom night should be. And oftentimes it's the pressure to, maybe if they haven't tried alcohol, to try for the first time, and, the element of not just trying alcohol, but maybe getting drunk or having shots, and also the pressure to have a sexual relationship on that night, potentially with the prom date or just in general. So I think young people today are having a lot of pressures put on them based on what the expectations are out there within their peer group, but also kind of societally about the expectation of what this night is supposed to represent.
Okay, and so if these are the expectations, I'm not sure, had I known that, I would have let my daughters or sons go to prom.
Well, absolutely. I can appreciate that. However, I think if you don't let them go, the question you have to ask is, what's that going to do to your relationship with your young person in your life? So that would be maybe the parent thing to do that's going to take an autocratic role. I think what you want to be is a bit more diplomatic and equip your children that much more with some of the necessary skills that I think would prep them for real life. I think having these open conversations about things like alcohol and, roofies being put in drinks and having sex against your will and things like that becomes very, very important, because these are constructive conversations that would obviously translate not just onto prom night, but as they become young adults, as they go out into the real world, into dating relationships.
Well, I have heard so many tales about young girls at bars where they do get things put in their drinks and they don't know it, so they're not supposed to ever take a drink without watching what's going in it. But I never thought about this for a high school prom night.
Well, it's something that I think you really have to think of all the pressures that they are being exposed to about what this night's supposed to be, right?
Right.
So whether alcohol is allowed on premise or not, is it going to be sneaked in? Who is bringing it in? Those types of things. Again, we can't speak to everybody in protecting, the society so our child can be safe. We in turn have to, I would think, inoculate our children so that they are aware of some of the dangers, unfortunately, not to cloud their judgment so they don't enjoy the night, but we still want to make sure that they are aware of some of the potential things so that they can make better decisions when they're out there having some fun.
Well, I think you're right in that if they are aware of what might happen, you need to give them the way out.
Absolutely. And, after the proms, up here in Canada, what happens is they rent out hotel rooms and things like that. So, again, at that point, are they chaperoned? Absolutely not. So there's oftentimes, 10s of 20 rooms that are rented together. There's a lot of drinking involved, those types of things. Obviously, children that can make better decisions around that can decide, I can seem like I'm having a drink, but I can have a water or, and say no thank you to certain things. But if they're not aware that potentially somebody could slip something into their drink, then I think we leave them a little bit out in the lurch there.
Well, I can't imagine a parent not having their child come home, letting them spend the night out.
Well,
I'm sorry. I'm not from that school.
Right, but I can tell you that that's what we see here. And you're in Georgia, right?
Right. I'm not sure. I don't know that our kids. I don't know. They might rent rooms. I just don't. It just shocks me.
That's what we see here all the time. So again, whether it's something that's, I think it would probably happen out your way too. Maybe it's more open here, but that's what happens. I'll give you an example. I had a young client, and I was seeing her. She on prom night, and this was an unfortunate thing that she shared. She had been out, had done the whole dance, whatever. There was a big party after, and everybody was staying over. It was a big property, so they had tents, and supposed to be a nice night, I guess.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, she had never drank before, and had never been involved with anybody sexually either. And unfortunately, that night she was sexually assaulted. But people assumed that she had given a consent because she was under the influence, and nobody basically went out to help her out.
That is so tragic, because the thing that these kids don't understand is that whatever happens to you in life stays with you forever mentally.
Absolutely, and that's one of I consult here at the Niagara Region Sexual Assault Center, and that's what we find is that, oftentimes if our kids are impressionable, they're not thinking that there's any kind of harm out there. And
right.
Generally don't want to put harm as the first thought in their mind, but we want to let them know what the realities are of what we see out there. And younger and younger, we're finding that, unfortunately, based on what's happening on TV and the movies and things like that, that's what our younger kids are thinking. That's how they have to kind of interface to be able to have a good time.
So what would be the best advice a parent can give their child after they tell them what could happen?
I think tell them to have fun. I tell them to ensure that they are, they have the ability to text somebody or call somebody at all points. If they are going to have a drink, that they have it in the company of somebody that they know. Obviously, never to take a drink from somebody they don't know. If they walked away and their drink was unattended, to never finish that drink, to dump it or to get a completely new one. And to really make sure that they have a good backup system with the people that they're out with. And if they at any time feels unsafe, that they could call or text either their parents, or one of their friends that would have also be in the environment that night.
I want to thank you so much. I've been talking with Roxanne Derhodge, the author of A Therapist